PTE Summarize Spoken Text is the first task of the listening section, and many test takers really struggle with this task. Do you know why? There are many factors to consider, including proper guidance and strategy. To rescue the exam takers, we have devised super strategies that can help to make this task very easy for you. And not only that, you can get great scores using the same. So we are going to cover each and everything in this video, and in the end, I will also share a bonus Readymade template with you that can easily take your score for this particular task to the 80s with only a teeny tiny effort from your side. So stay tuned and watch it till the end to become a master of the Summarize Spoken Text. Hello and welcome to the Edutrainex learning channel, the pioneer in PT training. To begin with, let's firstly understand what is the Summarize Spoken Text task all about. In the Summarize Spoken Text questions, you will hear an audio of an interview or a lecture, and you need to accurately write down a summary of 50 to 70 words about what you just heard. The audio begins to play automatically, and you can only listen to the recording just once. As mentioned before, this is the first listening task, and it assesses both your listening and writing scores, as you need to listen and then write your response. This task judges your ability to listen and then how capable you are in writing about the same. The length of the audio will be around 60 to 90 seconds, so you will hear a lot of chatter. In the latest PT exam format, you get 1 to 2 questions of this type in the exam. And the great thing about this task is you have 10 minutes separately allocated for each of the questions. So it is timed separately and you must use the entire 10 minutes for this particular task. Even if you finish early, the remaining time doesn't get added to the next task or to the section. So remember to use all this time to write a fantastic response. Now it's time to find out how does it look in the actual test. So this is the layout of the Summarize Spoken Text questions. It consists of 5 elements. Instructions at the top that tells you that you have 10 minutes to write a 50 to 70 word summary after hearing a lecture, as if you are explaining it to someone else. And below the instructions, you see the audio player, which plays the audio, and it also shows you the progress. And you get 12 seconds before the audio starts playing, and you are allocated 10 minutes of time to spend on this particular question. That includes the time listening to the audio. So you actually get around 9 minutes to type your response. Below the audio player, you have the writing space where you actually type your responses. Just like any other writing task in the PTE, you also get the cut, copy, paste buttons. So if you want to edit your response, you can do it using those buttons. Along with the total word count, which shows you the response length, and there is a timer at the bottom, so you can keep track of the time you are spending on the task. Now, it is interesting to look at how this task is scored. Since this task involves a writing response, the scoring is quite similar to the essay and summarize written text task of the writing section. You are evaluated in 5 different areas. Number 1 is the content, and you are expected to cover all the key main ideas to be precise and some supporting details. You get 2 points if you do that. 1 point if you only partially cover these points, and 0 if you write anything irrelevant. Number 2 is form, which actually measures the length of your response. So if you write between 50 to 70 words, you get 2 points. Responses between 40 to 49 and 71 to 100 will only get you 1 point. And if your summary contains fewer than 40 words or more than 100 words, you will receive an entire 0 for this response, because this response will not be checked by the PTE algorithm because you are violating the length parameter. So you can also check this on the official PTE website, and this information is 100% accurate. So never try to go beyond or below the word limit. Number 3 is the grammar, and you get full marks, which is 2 points, if you get everything grammatically correct. If you have 1 or 2 grammatical errors, then you still get 1 point. But if you exceed that and make more than 2 grammatical mistakes, you get 0 points. Number 4, your response is also assessed for mastery on the vocabulary skills. If you use appropriate choice of words in your response, you get full 2 points. 1 point for the usage of only some appropriate words, and 0 points if there are irrelevant words. Please note that this criteria doesn't mean that you have to use complex or difficult or fancy words, just the ones that are appropriate and relevant to the context. And lastly, you get 2 points if there are no spelling mistakes, 1 point if there is one spelling mistake, and 0 if you exceed that. So make sure you don't make any spelling errors. In total, you can get 10 points, which contribute in both your listening and writing scores. But no one actually knows what weightage goes to listening or writing. Only the PTE knows about it, and that's their secret. You need to be careful not to write any irrelevant content, and also don't write everything in capital letters or without any punctuation marks. This will get you an overall 0. And don't forget about the word limit. If you write below 40 and above 100, your response will get 0, complete 0, because it will not be checked. You can again check the official PTE website, which clearly says that. Now comes the interesting part, which is our super strategy. If you really want to get to a high score, the approach here is very simple and similar to retell lecture, which is a speaking task. In both the tasks, you are asked to provide a summary after listening to a lecture. In retell lecture, you need to speak, and in Summarize Spoken Text, you actually need to write your response. That's the only difference. So primarily, you need to follow 3 simple steps, and these steps depend on the type of the questions. So the step number 1 is before the audio begins. You only get 12 seconds before the player starts. The only thing that you can do in this 12 seconds is to get yourself prepared. Grab your pen and the erasable notepad in your hands and then prepare yourself to focus, because you're going to listen to a long audio. So you need to focus yourself on this particular task. So once you have prepared yourself, so the step number 2 is the key step, which is while the audio is being played. During this step, it is very important that you listen very carefully and at the same time take down some notes. Of course, you won't be able to note down each and everything from the lecture, and don't even try that. The things that you should note down are the words or phrases that have been emphasized, and normally the words with meanings are emphasized, like nouns, adjectives, verbs, and so on. And you have to ignore the grammatical words like is, for, he, her, she, and so on. Try to note as many words as you can, but at least around 7 to 10 keywords, so that you are able to use the template that we recommend. Noting down more stuff will help you to formulate a proper introduction. Now I will show you how to actually make notes, and you are free to use abbreviations while taking notes. Also, there is one trick in English is that even if you eliminate some vowels from the words, you can still make sense out of it. For example, if I write rockets as RCKTS or between as BTWN, I can still read it and it still makes sense to me. So practice this kind of making shortcuts that you can understand. This will allow you to take your notes faster. So let's do a practice question now, and you will understand what I'm trying to say here. Let's start the lecture now, and you should start making notes. I'll grab my pen and paper and get ready.
The ability to learn which of our actions help to avoid harming others is fundamental for our well-being and for societal cohesion. Many of our decisions have an impact on other people, and we are often faced with choices where we need to learn and decide what will help others and stop them from being harmed. An experiment carried out by the researchers involved scanning the brains of a group of 36 participants, while they were asked to make a series of decisions. Participants had to learn which decisions would lead to a painful electric shock being delivered either to themselves or to another individual. Researchers found a striking difference between the two decision-making processes. They found that individuals made automatic, efficient choices when learning to avoid harming others. However, when learning to avoid harming themselves, choices were more deliberative. People were willing to repeat choices that had previously led to harm if they thought it would produce better results in the future.
So how many keywords did you write? Let's see what I wrote. And also, look at the screen very closely. I used arrows to show actions and hyphens to show continuations. Remember, you may have noted many things differently, and some may also be the same as mine. So that doesn't make my response better than yours, as long as you have noted down a lot of keywords that clearly present the idea of the lecture. And using your keywords, your response can also get you to a high score, same as mine. Don't get stressed if you have noted differently. Just follow the approach what we are trying to suggest. So let's see what I noted down. Actions, avoid harm to others, societal cohesion, learn and decide, experiments, brain scans, participants, electric shocks, decision-making process, efficient, choices, deliberate, avoid harm, better results, future. As I said, try to write down as many words as possible. But around 9 to 10 keywords will definitely help you. So if you note down more, it will be easier for you to complete your response and your score will be better. If you are doing listening questions for the first time or you were not able to take down notes properly, so let me play the audio again, and this time I will also show you the transcript on the screen along with the audio. So you will see how I have highlighted a lot of keywords in red color. Again, you may have noted different things. It doesn't matter much. So let's begin.
The ability to learn which of our actions help to avoid harming others is fundamental for our well-being and for societal cohesion. Many of our decisions have an impact on other people, and we are often faced with choices where we need to learn and decide what will help others and stop them from being harmed. An experiment carried out by the researchers involved scanning the brains of a group of 36 participants, while they were asked to make a series of decisions. Participants had to learn which decisions would lead to a painful electric shock being delivered either to themselves or to another individual. Researchers found a striking difference between the two decision-making processes. They found that individuals made automatic, efficient choices when learning to avoid harming others. However, when learning to avoid harming themselves, choices were more deliberative. People were willing to repeat choices that had previously led to harm if they thought it would produce better results in the future.
Great. So does it make more sense now? Noting down the nouns, adjectives and keywords is the key here. So let's move to step number 3, which is used when the audio is finished. You may continue to write the keywords from the last sentence for some time, but the remaining time out of 10 minutes is for your writing. Firstly, you need to identify the main idea or the central idea of the lecture you just heard. So that we are going to use in the introduction. And then we'll use our template to fit in your keywords there, which I'm going to show you next. So these are my notes from the previous slide, and I have noted certain options for you to find out the main idea. What central idea did you understand after listening to the lecture? Look at the keywords decision making, avoid harming to others, societal cohesion, better decision. Just choose something out of it, as long as it can convey the idea that was discussed in the lecture. So I have listed 4 ideas for you here, using my notes and my memory. Idea number 1 is how our decisions and actions harm others. Idea 2 is about societal cohesion. Number 3 is about the human decision-making process. And number 4 is how we learn to make better decisions. So you can choose any one of these, and no idea is the best or the worst here. Time to look at the template. So now we are going to see the template on the screen, and we are going to fit the keywords that we noted earlier. This template was carefully designed by our PTE experts. That includes a proper structure and smooth coherence. See the template. Transition words are used there to make the sentences smooth and coherent. So the introduction is the speaker was describing the central idea. Next, depending on who was speaking, whether male or female, use he or she appropriately. The first line is, firstly, he/she talked about keyword 1. Then, he or she explained keyword 2. Later, he/she also described keyword 3 and keyword 4. Moreover, or furthermore, he/she discussed keyword 5. And lastly, for conclusion, you can say overall or finally, he/she implied that key phrase. So if you hear a lecture where there are multiple speakers speaking, so you can use speaker 1 and speaker 2 in the same template. You don't need to match exactly who said what, as long as you still say what was discussed in the lecture. As a bonus, I will also cover a ready-made template after completing the complete strategy. The template itself is 23 words. So in order to reach the 50-word mark, you just need 27 words more from your side. Now it's time to use the notes and the templates together to prepare our first draft. As we discussed earlier about noting the main ideas, the word decision was repeated many times. So I would say this is the most important keyword. Next, I will use my notes to fit into the template. And the first draft, I'll put the main idea in the first sentence. The speaker was describing how our decisions and actions harm others. And for the other sentences, I have just noted down the keywords. So I say firstly, he talked about learn and decide. Then he explained the brain scans. Later, he also described electric shock and experiments. Furthermore, he discussed efficient choices. And now we are left with a conclusion. So you need to write what the speaker wanted to convey or imply. So I used the last set of notes that I made to form the conclusion here, which is overall, he implied that results will be better in the future. Of course, I use grammar to make the keywords more meaningful here. So the word count now is 48, just short of 50. So in the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few more words, again using the keywords that I noted earlier. See how I have added more keywords from my notes to increase the word count, the ones highlighted in red. In the third sentence, I added more details using and conjunction, saying brain scan and participants. In the fifth one, I added more meaning to the sentence by saying participants making efficient choices. And lastly, in the conclusion, again I added more context to what I already wrote about. So now I have written the decision-making process results would be better in the future. And also note the grammar improvements. So I changed learn and decide in the second sentence to learning and deciding, which is grammatically correct. And lastly, the most important thing is to proofread your response and find if there are any grammatical or spelling errors in your response and fix them. So that completes our response, and this answer will get you a straight 90. Now let's do another practice question. Again, we'll go through the same process, try to use the steps that I've advised earlier, and see how your response develops from a normal to a better response.
I am trying here to capture the dynamics that is conventionally being associated with urbanization developments and get back once again to this question of agriculture. Once you have cities, and you also have the reverse of cities, you have countryside. You have rural areas and have this relationship with urban areas, and it needs to develop agricultural goods. And you trade with increasing industrial goods. Increasing agricultural productivity reduces labor needs and opportunities in the rural areas and pushing people towards to the cities. There is this notion that in order to have progress and development in cities, you need people. If everybody is busing, growing to crops, growing food that exists, you can't have people all going into the city. You need to increase productivity in the countryside. You need to have one farmer producing enough food for more than one family. And then you will have growth and productivity in the countryside, which will free up people move to the cities. In fact, in many ways, it will compel it. They will go to the cities, search for jobs, and provide labor force for the production of all kinds of things.
So, were you able to note down the emphasized words, nouns, adjectives, and so on. Next, I'm going to show you the transcript of the audio by highlighting the keywords which I noted down. Only a handful of keywords I have noted down, but it's still enough to convey the meaning of the entire lecture. And once again, I'm emphasizing that you are free to note down the other keywords as well. Overall, it should make sense. Moving ahead, I have listed 3 idea options again in front of you, and I hope you have something similar. Great job if you do, and don't worry if you don't have. Just keep practicing. So the main idea could be the dynamics of urbanization developments, or people moving to cities from countryside, or growing food and productivity in rural areas. So all of these are equally worthy to be the introduction. So more or less, we are touching the central idea in each of the phrases here. Now it's time to use the notes and the keywords into our template. So you have seen this template earlier. The word count is 23, and again we need to add 27 more words. So let's proceed to prepare our first draft. So to introduce the topic, I say the speaker was describing the dynamics of urbanization developments. I use the idea 1 discussed before. Next, for the body, we can write, firstly he talked about agriculture, then he explained rural areas, later he also described productivity and labor needs. Furthermore, he discussed growing foods. And for conclusion, you can write something which we can understand from the lecture itself, what the speaker is trying to convey or imply. So I wrote, overall he implied that we need more farmers. It could be as simple as that. So now we are at 40 words. So this means that we still need to add 10 more words to reach the 50 word count. Be extra careful in the exam not to be below 40 words or greater than 100 words. Otherwise, you will get a 0 as your response will not be checked at all. See how I have added more keywords from my notes to increase the word count. The ones highlighted in red. In the second sentence, I added more meaning. Instead of agriculture, I am now saying developments in agriculture. In the third sentence, I expanded it by saying cities and rural areas. In the fourth one, again I added more information around the keywords used earlier. Agriculture productivity and reducing labor needs. In the fifth one, I expanded the sentence by saying that growing food in rural areas. And lastly, in the conclusion, I said we need more farmers to grow more food. So I hope this task is much more clear to you now at this point of time. Now I'm going to give you the bonus, which is the Readymade template. But before that, I want to show you what great features the Edutrainex PTE software provides for PTE exam and how it helps you to clear the exam in the very first attempt. Great. So this Readymade template is the one that just requires a few keywords and you can still get a very good score using this. So firstly, if you choose good words, good keywords that convey the ideas discussed in the lecture, and secondly, no grammar mistakes. So be careful to put the correct form of the words you have noted down in your notes. But normally, you don't require deep knowledge of English grammar to use the template. See on the screen, the majority of the words have been written down for you in a very elegant manner, and the PTE algorithm definitely likes this type of writing. It has an introduction, body, and conclusion, along with smooth flow of information. Have a look. This is around 45 words, and you just need 5 good keywords from the lecture. As discussed earlier, the main keyword will be something that has been emphasized or repeated multiple number of times. The other keywords could be the other meaningful words. Comment below if you are still unsure about how to use the template and how to get a high score for this task. So let's see how the answer came out by using this template. I am using the same example which we did for the second practice question earlier on agriculture and farming. So I noted the main keyword as agriculture, as this was repeated multiple times in the lecture. Then I noted urbanization, food, farmers, and productivity. So if you noted more keywords, just add them in the body sentences using comma and conjunction. But don't add too many of them, otherwise you'll clutter the response. Answer is, according to the lecture, the speaker was describing the highlights of agriculture. Firstly, he provided brief information about urbanization. Then he explained the importance of food. Later, he also described the key elements related to farmers. Moreover, he discussed the significance of productivity. And in conclusion, I said overall, he suggested crucial information about farming. So now if you noted more keywords like people, cities, and development, so see how you can fit there to increase the word count further. We were already at 50 word count, so technically you don't need to add more keywords, but just to make your response more keyword intense, you can still add a few more keywords like this. Just be careful in not making any grammatical or spelling errors. You can really get a very good score with this answer. And I will soon make a video and show you how our strategies and templates can get you to a high score on the official PTE mock test exam. Choose the templates according to your capabilities in the English grammar. But whatever you choose, if you practice well and do as we have suggested, your score levels will definitely elevate, and that's a guarantee. So that completes our overall strategy for the Summarize Spoken Text task. Now I'm just going to show you the summary of what strategy we discussed here. Pause the video or go to our blog to read in detail. Next, there are some of the frequently asked questions about the Summarize Spoken Text questions. Again, pause it if you need more time to read. Excellent. So now you are one step ahead to get to a high score in the PTE test. So the next step is to practice. And finally, if you like this video, support us by liking and subscribing to our channel. And also share this informative video to your friends. We are also reachable on all social media platforms. And enroll yourself at Edutrainex to get hundreds of practice questions, tests, and useful guidance from our PTE specialists. Good luck with your PTE preparation.